There is a post-COVID impact as well on all of this, which nobody's talking about. We are taking that as an excuse to fire people. I believe that's my take on it.
Is it just a blame game? Would prompt engineering also be replaced because of the AI coming in?
If you check tweets of Sam Altman, he was saying the systems eventually are going to be vanilla instruction based, so you don't need prompts eventually. Prompt engineering was never about the code or any mechanism of writing. Prompt is actually about
Will AI think critically like humans in future?
my question. Even before we try to answer that is there is a deeper issue with human society more than what we're trying to solve with AI right now. And then we are comparing AI with humans. So there is a new role that has been created called LLM psychologist. So there are psychologists who are going to study LLM model, why they are behaving and how they are thinking.
Now there is a war between US and China for this OpenAI and DeepSeek.
China is great at it.
Hmm.
They know always like how to.
One advice to small and medium level organizations who would like to get into the AI transformation, and also for the freshers. Lot of news on Nvidia's growth, right? I mean, 200% growth in 1 year. How did that happen?
One, the demand for whole embedded mechatronics and computing on the edge, like on the.
What is edge computing? Hi, welcome to MetaFolks Career Chat Show. This is Srilakshmi Iyengar, your host. Today, we have Mr. Sridhar Sheshadri, who is an entrepreneur, 20 plus years of experience in the industry, have built his own journey of building companies, investing in organizations, and he's an author, serial entrepreneur who has been doing great work in AI transformation. Let's talk to him about how the world is going to look like in AI, how are the jobs, and how will future look like in it. Thank you. Hi Sridhar, welcome to MetaFolks Career Chat Show.
Thanks, Sri Lakshmi. It's a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me, having me here.
Thank you. When we are actually looking at the reports from McKinsey and all that, they have done a kind of survey last year in 24. What they say is organizations more than $500 million are changing at a faster pace in terms of AI transformation, but challenges are there at the medium level organizations and the startups. What do you see?
See, that's the beauty of it. All the media reports and everything would talk about the large organizations in terms of the trend and
Mm-hmm.
changes.
Mm-hmm.
But if we just step back and observe being part of these larger organizations, a lot of people like who are our audience, they would really understand what I'm trying to say. That decision making takes really long in larger organization. So if you really want to bring some change, and if it is highly forced from top to bottom, in that scenario, the adoption happens for a newer technology. So when we say large organization with a larger turnover or revenue
Mm-hmm.
is trying to do that and they're moving fast, that fast would also take 3 to 4 years of time. While the smaller companies, which are startups, they're always agile. I mean, look at the success story of Meta when it was Facebook, or
Mm-hmm.
Google at their early days, or any of the companies like Airbnb, anything which is really in the startup mode. They were able to move very quickly. So a decision is made and a team gets started like next morning.
Mm.
Or maybe morning they talk about it, and by evening you'll start seeing the first set of mood boards getting prepared or the discussions taking some shape. Where in the large organization, you lose months of time to even get the allocations, approvals, and everything.
Because of the lot of processes.
Processes. I mean, that's the thing. So uh, there is a lot of buzz about it. Uh, but as I said, there are different reasons and how certain stories are put out, and
Mm-hmm.
they don't want to lose their existing customers to startups. It's a very nice catch-up game, in infinite game that even larger companies play. They are always in infinite mode because they will not go out of business. They have to be there for 100 years, nothing less than that. And I mean, look at Dell, look at IBM. These are like huge, large companies, Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
From what they started to how they have pivoted each time a new wave has come, they have created new waves themselves. I think things will continue to happen. As an individual, as part of those organizations, people who are smart, who are quick learners, they can figure out their ways and they can get to the right piece of it. But I don't see it as a threat. It was always the trend. It's only that in media now there is a new wave of AI we think that's happening.
Okay. Uh, when you actually look at now, LLMs are coming. Okay. Where I think people are talking about cost efficiency here because of the LLMs. Uh, and we are also talking about now SLMs will come, small language
Right.
models. How will the change be, and how startups are actually um, accepting that?
It's a good question. I would actually tell you a step ahead of what's already happening right now with startups. So uh, SLM has been there for 6 months now. We are only talking about LLM, SLM for the awareness of the new set of folks who are getting into it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are still using APIs of OpenAI, Cloud, Gemini, those kind of systems. And they're building solutions, which is a wrapper on top of that and some use case, which is also a good thing because it's solving a real world problem using AI.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we go back to the current trends and how to be up to date with that, all the conferences in the West, European conferences, US conferences that we see are talking about agentic systems.
Mm-hmm.
Davos was all about agentic systems when we talk about AI. So agents are a step ahead of both of these things. So the way things are taking shape, the quickness with which it is moving right now, uh, you need to have all of this in your toolbox. So it's a toolkit that you need to prepare as a startup. And if you're doing use cases, you want to serve the clients with your use cases, you need to look at every new trend quickly, learn that, think about that particular vertical that you're serving. If you're in oil and gas, how do you use it in oil and gas? If you're in HR and recruiting, how do you use it in that particular domain? Defense, how do you use it in that domain? And basis that, you can actually be a little more ready. If you are a product company, don't retrofit all of this because
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily it was needed as part of your journey, but start thinking about bringing that as part of your roadmap.
Okay.
So it might be needed 6 months later, and start telling your clients or your investors, this is coming. This is how we'll meaningfully use it. This is
Mm-hmm.
a time there is going to be a lot of chaos and confusion in product managers' minds. They would be like, I don't know there is a real need of this or not. I already have such a good team. Do I need to replace them with agents?
Mm-hmm.
My costing might be low in India comparatively to actually deploying an agentic system, replacing a QA engineer, let's say.
Okay.
So you have to be diligent of your decisions in terms of, do you really need it or not, whether it's the right time to deploy it, whether your client is really looking for it, whether your market where you're selling your product as software as a service offering, does it need it? I mean, you have to look at that and then decide. So that's my take on it actually.
When you're talking about the costing, what do you think? How much time will it take for India to implement all these agentic softwares?
See, I feel Indians are very smart with the uh, business model creation. I mean, whatever people believe, but last 15, 20 years, Indians have figured out a very good model from BPO, KPOs to building products today. I mean, the way internationally, as of today, startup market and innovation market looks like, India is thriving in it.
Mm-hmm.
40 to 50% consumption in the world of AI is happening in India. So the way our guys are thinking with the new policy changes and how things are enabling things might not be perfect, but it's still in very good shape, is what I feel. Now, coming back to your question of pricing and how things would really look like, uh, there will always be a hybrid model of pricing. Basis like earlier, the valuation of services companies were done per human resource and other resources and how large the accounts were, things like those. Now, there will be one more component of AI agents which are very efficient. So, it's the efficiency and the quality output that you can get with AI agents that will add that particular dimension of either pricing or valuation from Indian perspective.
Okay.
So though there will be competition, so we'll have to figure out always the right pricing, lower pricing model at times.
Mm-hmm.
But quality will be a factor, the accuracy will be a factor, how well your systems are performing will be a factor, and how can you reduce the OpEx. So your GPU cost shouldn't be high, your maintenance cost should be low. If you can come out with that kind of model,
Mm-hmm.
I believe there can be a decent pricing model that can be created in the current scenario because the whole business landscape and newer requirements would actually come up in future because the traditional jobs would itself be very different. Traditional requirements for every industry will be very different with more automation coming in.
Okay. When you say traditional requirements will go off, what we hear these days is more on the prompt engineering side and all that. Uh, how is the boom for these roles of prompt engineering in the AI industry? And my question is that would prompt engineering also be replaced because of the AI coming in and then getting molded in a better pace?
That's a great question. That's already happening. I feel we by the time we are catching up on the prompt engineering jobs and training. Uh, I mean, the if you have used OpenAI,
Mhm.
ChatGPT, any of these solutions, and you see the analysis that it generates, there's
Generates.
actually code.
Uh,
So you're now putting a plain English, which we are calling prompt,
mm,
and the code is getting generated. And now, few days back, if you check tweets of Sam Altman, he was saying your niceties with ChatGPT is not helping. It's costing a lot of money.
mhm,
So when you are actually behaving very well and saying thanks and good morning and all that to ChatGPT, it's actually just using a lot of compute power. So the systems eventually are going to be vanilla instruction based. So you don't need prompts eventually. That's where we are heading. That's what he is also trying to communicate. Remove
mhm.
the English part, just give the instruction, get what you want from it. The system is intelligent enough.
Okay.
So the prompting is critical thinking ideally. The next big thing is going back to basics of our civilization where what to ask, how to correlate to the end result, what you're
Mhm,
looking for.
mhm,
If you're able to do that piece right, uh, I think that's what would be the prompt engineering. The prompt engineering was never about uh, the code or any mechanism of writing.
mhm,
Prompt is actually about how well you can think. I mean, as a manager or as a successful person in any job, people around you, if you look up to someone, it was their critical thinking, their ability to think on the go, how well they communicate with the stakeholders, what old principles they can go back to and again revisit and tell that this is how we should be doing things. That agility, that promptness is the prompt engineering rather than the coding that we are looking at. So we'll have to really work towards that.
I've got a very dumb idea of um, will AI think critically like humans in future?
Ideally, the thinking part is already happening right now, is what I feel. The neurons that we talk about in AI are not really relatable directly with human neurons. But my question, even before we try to answer that, is do we really have all the human beings thinking like that? I mean, like, what's the average level of thinking for all the humans right now? What I'm trying to say is, in a society where we live today, uh, there are a lot of things where we feel like, where is the common sense? I mean, why somebody is acting in a certain way?
Hmm.
Though they are well educated, they have good background in certain things. And I mean, look at the accidents that happen with all the rich
Hmm.
folks. They're well educated, they come from great background, they have everything. The state of mind.
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, there is a deeper issue with human society more than what we're trying to solve with AI right now. There is a day to day grind in which everybody is busy and we are happy about, oh, we can bring this AI and we'll solve this. And then we are comparing AI with humans. But there is a big bunch who doesn't care in their day to day life about that level of critical thinking. They have a critical thinking in their job. Let's talk about a chef. He would be thinking or she would be thinking in a very different way. A cook would be
Mhm.
different person. They'll think in a different way. A car driver would think in a different way. I mean, there is a human emotion and everything else. So, going back to your question, practically speaking, from average thought process, where do most of the humans really sit? And there is IQ that we talk about. Where's the EQ?
Yeah.
So, if you look at that landscape, I know I'm not really taking a depth of this perspective of what I'm saying right now. But if we deep dive onto this particular aspect of it, anyone who is thinking about it would understand. So there is a new role that has been created called LLM psychologist. So there are psychologists
Mm.
who are going to study LLM model, why they are behaving and how they are thinking in a
Why the
certain
models are behaving in
behaving.
that?
It's the LLM. So
Okay.
why a model is behaving in a certain way, what the model would be thinking, a psychologist, human being is going to look at that. They're already hiring for those roles. If you go and search for LLM psychologist role, you'll see what the job description looks like.
Okay.
So I'm saying we're getting into a new world, but to your question, from critical thinking perspective, can AI think that with that much of depth? They are already thinking, but again, there is always multiple cohorts of intelligence and EQ that we have in the society. A person who would be uneducated living somewhere in a village today, we might look down to that person thinking, imagining that we are well educated and better off than them.
No,
They might be more satisfied, they might have better wisdom than us, they might have better critical thinking, their intuitions would be much more stronger than us.
yeah.
So there are 100 better things that they would be doing than what we are
Yeah.
believing. And now I'm, rather than comparing myself to that person,
Okay.
in my ignorance and ego, if I compare it to some AI and say this AI is better than all of us, I mean, it's our human ignorance, ideally. I mean, this is a paradox we live in.
So, what can be derived from it is probably humans can be hired for their EQ. IQ is anyway taken care by most of the AI part.
That's true. If you look at any critical scenario of life, people who are always remembered as great leaders or legends, they were always a good mix of EQ, IQ.
Yeah,
You don't need people with high IQ all the time.
correct.
So you need that human aspect in anything. I mean, you talk about any great figure,
Mhm.
you talk about Nelson Mandela, you talk about Mahatma Gandhi for that matter. People would have their own political reasons to talk in a different way about it, but I just say if you rip apart that part for a moment and you just study their character and how they were
Mhm.
and how they have tackled many things, why people have accepted. I mean, there would be different theories about there is a better social media these days, so we would have known a different story. Those days, they were limited bit of it. But it's always a mix of good EQ and IQ for all of these great leaders. And that will be the scenario even in war. If you talk about any journal fighting a war on ground and people really will give their life, the critical thing, they know they will go and die in another 10 minutes of ambush, they'll take that instruction and still do it, though
Okay.
they are not machines. Why? Because there is a EQ in it, that
Yeah.
somebody can drive that EQ in you. I don't think practically it can happen without EQ. We have to, and that's what we'll get back to. The core of what Bharat is actually moving towards that light. That light is actually this light of EQ, emotions, who we are, what we should be, why there is dissatisfaction after we have everything. That will only be answered by actually that EQ part. And I think the whole world is pushing us towards a very mechanical method of living. And then eventually we'll get to all the basic questions of what are we doing? And it's like moving inwards,
Exactly.
all the meditation, everything, all that theory will come. I know like we have digressed from AI, but that's how I look at the whole EQ IQ thing. It's a big paradigm to talk about. Day to day we are right now struggling about jobs. We will learn these prompt engineering bit, but
Okay.
getting into jobs, but in 20 years, in 30 years, then we'll learn, okay, things were very different, how we have actually been forced into it.
Absolutely. Very well said. Because that's the spiritual quotient, whatever is there, the inner engineering part. Probably people are trying to figure out that area in this AI world. So when we were talking about the LLM, you said LLM psychologist. Um, what kind of crazy job roles that would actually come in near future? How does the future look like for the people who are actually pursuing their graduation and studies now?
Oh, every role that you had for managing a human being, you can imagine that role recreated for managing AIs. The only thing is you will have knowledge of AI, how they work, and then the human psychology. And that's where again we'll go wrong in society because you're trying to cure the disease of AI bot with the treatment of human being. So a human psychologist will think like human, and it'll try to actually he'll or she'll try to actually fix the problem for a bot,
Okay.
that it should think like this, but why it is thinking like that. So what should we change in the code? So engineers will go and change the code. So other roles probably would be like taxing. This was said by even Bill Gates in last decade when he said that it felt funny that humans would be there to tax AI chatbots or AI bots. So you can imagine a police officer, which is human, trying to tax a autonomous car.
Okay.
So which is like penalizing. But what I mean by tax is like
Yeah.
penalizing, putting penalties on, trying to control them. So we are virtually creating all the rules where rather than fighting it against humans, humans would actually fight it against or try to take control over these machines that we're creating. So any role you can think about where there is more efficiency expected and they are not efficient, there is more accuracy expected and they are not accurate, that's where a human role can be created for
Mhm.
each one of those role, you can actually do both of those parameters tuning for AI. And I think any vertical you can think about. So on site on a floor, if there is a floor manager in a mechanical engineering kind of industry, uh, where they would be going to all the guys telling them take a tea break,
Mhm.
do this well, get your efficiencies right, reduce the number of accidents, things like those. uh, you have to now do that only for the machines. Look at their log, see why the performance is going down for one of the machine,
Mhm.
call the engineer and get that fixed. But your role is typically that, but you're now doing it with machines rather than humans. So all the dark factories right now running in China are
Oh.
already doing it. So in night, they're not even switching out a single light. The efficiencies have gone up. All the human beings have been replaced in some of the factories with these robots,
Mhm.
and they're just constantly producing 24/7. So that's happening. You can YouTube go search and you can find these videos. So it's already happening, but the roles will be created. The floor manager will become a AI floor manager. A person who was in the old job, he figured out and he learned it, he gets the AI role. If he is not that guy, somebody from college who is coming out with AI background and mechanical background, who knows how these machines or embedded systems or edge systems are working, they will learn that, and then they'll start solving for those problems.
We were actually doing one of the podcasts on mechatronics. So it's a combination of mechanical and AI combination. When you're actually speaking up this story, I have a crazy thought where a lot of voice agents have come,
Right.
voice assistants have come. Now AI agents, they can replicate anybody's voice.
True.
That so it's like your CEO voice can be replicated. I mean, it can take that voice. Now, do we really need AI bodyguards at that strategic level
Amazing.
in
That's a great
coming
question.
future?
Ideally, yes. I feel. I mean, it's again how humans have created society. I really find it. I mean, from the psychology and all the content I consume, people I meet, I feel we first thrive for it, we create it, and then we want to run away from that. That's how the structure generally looks like. Uh, do we need them? Yes, we need bots to do that because humans can do all the time better jobs.
Yeah.
Uh, so we already created one of the startups I was advising last year. We already created a studio where for one of the news channels, which was a popular news channel which has completely gone online on YouTube now. We have created avatars and virtual, real human-looking systems where AI has the avatar as well as the voice. So you give 30 minutes voice fabric of any individual. So you can create, you just give it text and it'll create the output for you, like in that voice, that same style, same fabric of speaking. And you take any other anchor's face, like a person who does not exist,
Uh-huh.
you take that picture from a ethnicity point of view, and then you have a real human being standing in front of camera. This face gets superimposed and they can present the whole news, but their voice, their face is not used. Their gestures are used to make it very realistic, and the face gets superimposed, the voice gets superimposed, and you can do that live. And they're doing it already right now.
Oh
And this is happening in
God.
Telugu. It's a Telugu news channel that we have done this for. So we did this last year. The only thing is now we have more compute, better GPU, better technology algorithms than what we
Mhm.
had last year. It's only getting better each year.
Oh God, this is this is crazy to hear. I mean, how much cost is involved to set up certain things?
Depends.
I mean, you can just say, if not the number, is it going to cost much for people who are in the
It's just
industry?
going down. I can just say that, like, if you want to keep buying little expensive equipment, the
Hmm.
cost would be close to not more than ₹1 million, kind of thing. You can just
Okay.
bring it down to that also. If you want to use the old equipment and things like those, but if you're really trying to set up a professional stuff and all,
Uh-huh.
uh, maybe 30 to 40 lakhs would be more than enough to build something which is very cheap comparatively to the technologies that people are selling online from different uh, US products kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
So I mean that kind of, and the beauty is this is built by Indian folks in India, the technology that I'm talking about. And the only difference is the team did not go and market it so that the world would know that they have already built something like that.
Oh.
And the studio literally struggled to get that technology from Dubai and other good companies which claim. Either
Uh-huh.
it was way too expensive for them on OpEx perspective,
Okay.
where this startup was able to make it a model where the operation cost was very low. So that's why they prefer to have it from them.
Okay.
So
So
that's
people
that's
might
about.
look into it now. Next options.
No, absolutely, ideally, yes.
Okay. So when we are talking about the costing, efficiency, and everything, I got this. I mean, lot of news on Nvidia's growth. Right, the kind of growth that it had is like humongous. I mean, 200% growth in 1 year. Just so, how did that happen? Is it just because of their chip building, the AI based chip building, or what is the story behind it actually?
So one, the demand for whole embedded mechatronics and computing on the edge, like on the on-site bit. When we say edge computing,
Mm.
for the audience, I would just like to explain that.
What is edge computing? You can just.
Yeah, I'll just quickly explain that. So rather than doing heavy processing on cloud or on your servers, you try to do some kind of processing on the implementation site.
Mm-hmm.
Let's assume there is a utility industry plant, like a large electricity grid
Mm-hmm.
where there's a maintenance happening.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than deploying the whole heavy server and everything that you have today, you just deploy your cameras or drones or something of that sort there, some
Mm-hmm.
transducers or sensors to capture information.
Mm-hmm.
A light level of processing happens with the uh, information that the systems would have captured. Like you have captured temperature change, you have captured some images. A smaller computer is deployed there, it'll process that, and the metadata, which is like processed information, is then sent across, and that processed information is processed on cloud, and you get the conclusion. What does it mean? Whether the system is going to break down, whether the system is heating too much. So rather than doing all of that heavy lifting, you send all this information to a cloud. That was the old traditional model, that
Yeah.
you give the information from your device on your
Mm.
phone. The system captures this information, sends it to a cloud. It does all the heavy lifting there and gives you the output here. Rather than doing that on your device itself, it's doing it. Like now, simple example is your iPhone or your Android. A lot of processing doesn't even happen online. It will not send that information to the cloud, and it will try to process it on the edge where it is with you. That's edge computing.
Okay. So now, does it impact the cloud computing jobs?
Ideally, no. It'll just make the system more efficient because
Okay.
you're not processing. So there is a newer requirement that on devices which are to be deployed closer to the consumers,
Mm-hmm.
that's where the processing should happen. So there is a requirement of chipsets which is needed to process all of it near the client side. So on your phone, you're actually carrying a smart computer from the 2 decades ago. I mean, 2 decades ago, if you wanted a smart computer, it would actually have that kind of compute power that you have in your smartphone today.
Mm.
So today it's as smart as like what you wanted to do like 2 decades ago for a smart computer. So you can actually do any kind of calculation, any kind of stuff if you really deploy a program on your smartphone today. So your smartphones are already doing that edge computing requirements. They're already fulfilling those edge computing requirements for you. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not sending all the heavy bit to the cloud computing. It's bringing more efficiency because it's processing there and there itself.
Mm-hmm.
Your Google Assistant or your Siri is trying to do some kind of information processing about you, who you are. It stores something localized in a
Okay.
database about you. It'll check your images there itself, use its own intelligence, and then basis the extracted information, the abstract of all of it, it'll send it to cloud and quickly get your response. So
Okay.
that's how it typically works. Now coming back to your question of chipset, which was the real question.
Yeah.
So Nvidia is a good story. It's like how Paytm occurred in India
Uh-huh.
before the demonetization.
Yeah.
Uh, some things are alignment of the stars, how things come together. But Nvidia has been onto that. AMD computers have been onto that journey for a while now. I mean, the chipset companies, Intel, they were all looking into it. But Intel over focused on the traditional GPU requirements because there was never a clear thing that this will come to normal end users like you and me.
Mm-hmm.
It was always supposed to be for enterprises. The GPUs
Yeah.
were supposed to be for enterprises and large companies. So with that mindset, I believe Intel always focused and produced machines, or for the professional gamers or artists, they always had that mindset.
Okay.
Whereas Nvidia was doing one good thing, they were heavily focused always building ISEC machines for crypto mining in the last decade.
Okay.
Though the market went down because of regulation, yet crypto mining was always very critical piece, and Nvidia was focusing on that kind of requirements. And Nvidia doubled down on the requirements when they got bigger contracts from companies like Tesla, SpaceX, and all those companies. So while they were planning that thing for a scale, the market became conducive of that requirement, which means end user, why not we give it to them? And Dell kind of companies and everyone else thought like, let's put that into every machine and provide it to people.
Okay.
So it's just like while that hype is happening, everybody wants to, all the large companies which are in infinite game wants to always be in that infinite game.
Yeah.
They catch up to the latest trend. So they did that. They brought all of it into this, and you're seeing what you're seeing right now.
Yeah. Great. Um, During the same phase of where Nvidia had such a great growth, now there is a war between US and China for this open AI and DeepSeek. So is that dangerous? I mean, DeepSeek, the kind of changes that it has brought, how do you feel the differences between OpenAI and DeepSeek?
So because I consume a lot of content, I see a lot of conspiracy theories too around things, and it gives a very different perspective about it. To your original question, that whether it's dangerous, it was dangerous because it had impact on the markets. Because Sam Altman was investing heavily buying Nvidia chips,
Mm.
so the market, when they realized that with a lesser compute, DeepSeek was able to do it. It was only able to distill the existing knowledge from OpenAI kind of systems,
Mm.
Llama systems. So they were able to. What DeepSeek was actually trying to do is they were distilling the data from the larger models like Llama models or OpenAI models,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like you. What do you mean by distill? You're actually throwing a question, you're getting some answer,
Mm-hmm.
and you have your own model. I'm just explaining it in a very layman
Mm.
manner.
Yeah.
Uh, so you're throwing a question, you're getting some answers. You have your own models. You throw the same question, and you get certain answers.
Mm-hmm.
If they are not closer enough, you take the knowledge of the other model that it should be this,
Yeah.
and you keep giving feedback to your own system. When I ask you this question, it should be like this.
Mm.
You keep doing this process multiple times, and you train the model,
Mm-hmm.
so the cost becomes drastically low.
Less. Correct.
So they just did this, but the premise was somebody invested billions of dollars on that,
Correct.
and you have just copied another mechanism.
Huh.
And I won't be shy of saying China is great at it.
Uh,
They know always like how to copy
they
things.
go with it.
And I've seen this professionally too in my corporate journey,
Okay.
how it works. So this is how they typically look at, like that's how you catch up. So these are like corporate wars where you figure out like how it happens. And every era we have seen this happening. I'm not really surprised by anything. If somebody is following internet story for last 30 years, and especially for Gen Z, I would say go and look at Netscape story. Look at like how all the social networks were coming out last decade.
Mm.
Uh, how there was competition between US and China. They never let any of those social networks go and have penetration in Chinese market. That decade is gone. Then device companies which are manufacturing, we always had a stronger manufacturing units available in China. So that's the reason all the American companies had to like rely on China to get those manufactured. So the Android based systems, how quickly they copied and they came up with their own devices. You look at like the basic phones, the old flip phones and all.
Mm.
So it was always easy to manufacture. So they have advantage. What China has really created well is their own solid ecosystem and self-reliant mechanism of surviving. And I think this war will continue. They will not open up the markets. Virtually everyone is competing. From GDP perspective, there is always the position one, position two game that
Now
will
things
continue
are
to happen.
different because of the heavy tariffs, right?
Absolutely, but again, these are only mechanisms of fixing the deficits that the country has been on. I mean, US knows what it is doing. Certain things might be distractions. Certain things would be a mechanism of bringing the whole economy, reviving the whole economy where it has gone to. Because we felt at one point of time, not just recession, US might go to depression too. And again, there are mind games happening. Like while there is Bitcoin and all crypto being very clearly supported in the US market, all the large investment banking and banking firms like JP Morgan Chase, Fidelity, they're all launching their own stable coins. That's a mechanism because of which they want to stabilize the economy. And funnily, if you check the news, US is selling gold and investing in crypto. And 3 days later, you get to hear that China is buying gold. And I mean, they're not worried too much about crypto. They have also invested heavily in cryptos, though. But again, how the economies are shifting, how the global dynamics are looking like, from that perspective, this game will continue. Is there a risk? Probably, if you are in a business where you are looking at alternatives apart from China, maybe Vietnam and eventually India at some stage will catch up to that game, because things cannot move that fast. While you make a policy at government level, building manufacturing setups, giving them land like to businessmen, and then ultimately seeing something taking shape takes some time. So we will take some time to catch up on it. But from that global trend, nobody wants a war in reality. Even if that something happens, it would be like smaller wars,
I know.
and things will still continue.
Why Google and Meta's AI interfaces, actually like open source and OpenAI and DeepSeek, why they are not able to compete as on date? Of course, they have created Gemini and all that, but people are mostly talking about ChatGPT and DeepSeek only, right?
That's a great question. So, uh, while this is all function of marketing, one, and organizations when they really become large, they don't talk too much about what they're doing because they have a huge client base. You can imagine Microsoft products and how smoothly they introduce Copilot to every enterprise
Mm.
offering. And in first 50 days, 40 days, their existing sales guys would go sell, use 1 year free license, and they'll anyways acquire all of it. But Microsoft was always backing OpenAI. You
Mm.
never heard Microsoft outside. I know you talked about the other two companies. I'll come to the other two companies
Yeah.
too. But I'm giving you an example of how larger companies play these games. So it was Microsoft fighting at war at the cost of OpenAI. I mean, if you just go and do your analysis, you can very clearly see that. But interestingly, the moment you go and check Google, Google always had these models created in the beginning. The transformer model technology was always available. Uh, from 2018, they were always talking about it.
Yeah, they've been talking.
And they had certain white papers, they were building it. The type ahead model, some of the other language models were always being used. And these are already used in their ad ecosystem, many of these things.
Yeah.
Now, because everybody is demanding it, they are just gradually rolling out those tools. And
Mm.
practically, whoever be number one or number two right now, it doesn't matter because they already have corporate clients and they'll catch up in that particular game and they'll offer that particular bit to their end customers. We as end consumer will always have our own comfort zone. Doesn't matter if Apple sells more phone or Android sells more phone. You will choose what you want to
What
buy.
you want to.
Similarly, if I'm buying a plus plan or pro plan of Gemini or Meta models and things like those,
Mm-hmm.
these companies know very clearly what messaging has to go out and what they're really competing on and how they're competing on it. Because in life, it's not necessary to compete on all the angles directly head on. And if someone else is doing that head on battle, your job is just to figure out your spot and keep playing. These are war strategies typically that larger companies use,
Okay.
which we as end consumer never see it. So we would be like, oh, ChatGPT has just gone ahead and they're doing a great job. DeepSeek. So the distraction is not the larger companies.
Okay.
It's actually about nobody's talking about larger companies. Why everybody's talking about only OpenAI and DeepSeek? That's the reality. But we
That's
are
it.
seeing it other way around. Why are they behind? They are not behind. They are very smart. The focus is that the larger clients who they have already, they'll anyways continue to use what they are selling.
Yeah.
I mean, look at any state government which has signed MOUs with Google in last 1 year
Mm-hmm.
for adoption of AI. They already have it
Yeah.
now. So the DeepSeek did not come here. OpenAI would have signed something, but what can OpenAI really bring it that quickly? That kind of offering which Google and Microsoft or Amazon can give you today. Probably no, because they have already done their groundwork, readiness to offer this.
Okay.
So that's the thing. I mean, we are only distracted assuming the technology is better with them.
Okay.
We'll eventually see a lot of other startups doing much better than these two big names that we are talking about right now.
Okay. Uh, Very nice to hear that analysis because at the end customers, what would they think is what we hear, what is trending. That's the only thing,
True.
right?
And we don't need to believe, I think, what we even look at the products that we buy and the labels that they put on top of it as conspiracy theory, that how somebody has to go and really tell you that no, what they are claiming, it's not that. The human's world is actually designed like that. We believe what we see. So there's
Mm-hmm.
heavy marketing about everything, and we fall for that narrative. But there would be deeper gameplays happening behind. I mean, that's what your exposure once you go meet people.
Okay.
From that, I can just like tell you like what's happening. Probably, it's very different from what we see on ground.
Very, very interesting. Interesting. So, when we are talking about the AI transformation everywhere in all the enterprises, at all levels of the enterprises, now, what are organizations choosing? Are they choosing to hire fresher people who are trained in AI/ML, or would they coach and transform the existing lateral hires?
I think both will happen. See the kind of country uh, we are and the kind of socioeconomic backgrounds people come from. Uh, there are general biases that we anyways will have to live with or create criteria for filtering. The volume of people that are produced from these colleges is huge.
Mhm.
The quality would always be questionable generally, but again, not necessary a tier 2, tier 3 college candidate would not be self learning and would not be ready.
Mm,
Or with a very little support from mentors from industry, they cannot catch up.
mm,
So when the lateral entry guy would have done self-learning, he or she will become very expensive resource at a point of time. Initially, companies would be needing them. That's why they will hire them, or they will retrain their. They'll try to retrain their staff. How many of them will be really efficient? Nobody knows. I mean, like there is always mechanism of training programs and reskilling people. That always happens, which will continue to happen. That
that's
was the
there.
case
That's
always.
a cycle.
Yeah. But in reality, what's needed, whether industry knows about it, is a real question to be asked.
Okay.
Because what their client needs are looking like, they are also not clear about it. Is
Mm-hmm.
my take on that.
Mm-hmm.
When you go with a new product to the market and you're trying, especially in the services business, because I'm talking from India perspective right now. In services business, what typically happens is you go to the client and you say, these are 20 offerings that I have. Which one do you want?
Mm-hmm.
And I believe all these 20 are relevant for you. They
Mm.
might come back and say, no, this 21st is my requirement. Can you do this? By
Okay.
seeing demos of those 20 things, and they'll
Yeah.
create a use case. And then
Yeah.
you'll say, okay, this, I'll build it for you and we'll sell you.
Mm.
If that 21st requirement is maybe 80% new, 20% was old from what you have skilled your staff from, what are you going to do? Do you really have a staff which
Again,
is reskilled?
reskilling.
So you look for
Uh,
somebody who is fresher, who knows that 80% bit, who can pull it off quickly. Now you don't care about 10 years experience on the resume, because
Correct.
you have a client who is willing to
Everything
pay
is
you
new.
$1 million, where 80% can be done by a fresher who is sitting somewhere and he is giving confidence, I'll come and I'll solve this problem for you.
This is like pandemic experience was new to everyone.
True. So while you don't know how it is panning out, this is an assumption and confidence. As humans, we know, as ignorant we are always very confident that we'll deal with it.
Okay.
So that's why first wave of COVID, how we saw things, and second wave, how terrible it became. Third, it was still manageable. These are waves of AI that are happening right now. And
Okay.
we'll only get to see with the second wave how bad the market is. Do we really need AI? Why we need AI? I mean, the funny part is this. Look at a mall in Hyderabad for a moment, where there is a boom barrier. There's a button that you can press and get the ticket. The boom barrier will open and you can go through.
Mm.
Look at the airport. You're going to the parking.
Mm.
These are all automated systems. Can you replace the person standing next to it, pressing that button and giving you that ticket? You still
Mm.
have a person standing next to those automated systems today.
Yeah.
So there are mechanisms where you know the person who is driving a car is wise enough, who needs that system, and he can still do it on his own. Still, there will be an employee next to it who you would be billing in your whole ecosystem. So that will continue to happen. So what I'm trying to say is, yes, freshers would be required, This is the old transition we have seen from automation era, which was very short-lived for 2 3 years and last 5 years window. Then the early wave of AI again, which was again going to die, and all of a sudden GPT revived all of this AI boom. Still, how much of AI is needed? In name of this, unfortunately, a lot of cost cuttings would happen in name of efficiency, in name of effectiveness, accuracy. We are going to like let go people, but again, we'll go back to ground zero. Some extreme pendulum swing of right and left will happen while we settle down.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people who are not disciplined, a lot of people who are not unlearning and learning things, they will again go out and they'll have to look for different jobs. We'll come back to that scenario again.
Yeah.
And that's my read of the whole situation.
Okay. So, when you look at the current employees who are actually trying to coach themselves in AI, what kind of challenges are you actually seeing in them?
See, the resistance and believing, as I said, ignorance of this will not impact me. Uh, and then there is, as humans, at certain age, the flexibility goes down. Anyways, it can be the neuroplasticity can be low in the beginning years too. I mean, it's a human's way of an individual's way of like learning and moving ahead in life. Like from being a people manager, also I've observed why we are not able to push certain people in certain roles. They're very good at certain roles. They
Mm-hmm.
have been designed to say do running around kind of tasks.
Mm.
While some people are very good at like creative jobs, some people are very good at like communication jobs. So we will always have that mix kind of thing. So my advice to those folks would be: this is the time, figure out what you're meant for, and start bringing some component of AI to that part of your job. Because survival in name of some basic salary that you take home today in larger organization, if it changes because of this trend, what are you going to do is important for you from your existence perspective. You don't want to be depressed sitting at home 6 months later saying AI replaced me.
Mm.
It's you who is inefficient, who is replacing yourself and putting yourself into that situation. It's not AI. So anyone who wants to do that, this is the moment where they have to fight it out with themselves, get ready for that change. And this is where you need a lot of self-help and that motivation to like figure out, because the point is you have been into a stale state of working in certain way, and that's what companies wanted you to be. It's not that you were like that. They don't want you to go beyond that module. They don't want you to go from A B to C. They just want you to be between A and B. And now is your time to first think what I am, who I am, what capabilities I have. Naturally, this is what I was. And then revisit all of that and then decide how much AI will really help me. How do I go and create my portfolio to be like, it's not resume that you need now.
Mm.
It's that portfolio of this is who I am, this is how I should be solving problems in near future. And this future is changing. I mean, like by the time we learn prompt engineering, that will be gone. It's pure language, as I
Yeah.
said, critical thinking.
Mm.
So revisit that. And if you are doing it quickly, you will still find a new role within the organization. You don't have to get laid off and then figure out that. So
This,
that
this
discipline.
reminds me of back in the days when banks were getting digitized. There were few, probably government sector banks, they were resisting on the change to work on computers and all that.
Great.
I think similar phase is coming in the AI part.
Great analogy. Absolutely. That's the bit. So today, lifestyle banking, which is your mobile apps, which are giving you all of the options along with wallet, that you can buy a gold bond. I mean, now they have discontinued the gold bond, but again, it was a huge thing that you can
You
buy
can buy digital gold
digitally. Yeah.
online.
So things like this, which is huge. Like I don't have to go to a branch and speak to someone and do that.
Yeah.
So if that's happening, and if it's not a banker. Like for your role, you imagine that I am IT guy and he's a bank guy,
Mm.
and it can happen to me. It cannot happen to me. It's like the heart attack can happen to someone else, but not to me. Or maybe someone can get brain stroke, but I cannot
Yeah.
because it's me. I mean, that's our ignorance we live in as
Yeah.
humans. It's just that it's happening to everyone around, and are you ready for it? How you going to cope with that change? So we have to be in that mind set, and then get to that preparation.
Mm.
Once you are prepared, opportunities will open up. Because you're
Okay.
not prepared, the opportunities will never come to you. So at least while you believe today there is high risk, start taking up courses that will help you to keep yourself. So you don't need to code. Figure out like what tools of AI, how can you bring AI on your resume? How can you look at your original skills before getting into that job where you have been for 15 years that you can put back and then say, this is what my portfolio looks like. I'm more than what I've been in this job, and this is what I can do for you as an individual in your company. These are the things I can do. When you change your resume to a portfolio of saying, this is who I am, this is what I'll bring for you, I think you'll be very relevant. That mindset is
I know
needed.
because with all these co-pilots and no-code platforms coming in, people have to change themselves and relearn things.
True. We'll still have time. I believe in India, we will have little longer window than what how fast it will first impact the US market. Because when the tsunami happens near the coast gets impacted first.
Mm.
So that's what you'll see with the with the east coast of US and west coast first.
Okay.
Those folks would actually, like IBM will first lay off people, say in the US. That's in the news,
Mm.
and that will very minutely impact like some teams in India.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but the bigger change is, bigger risk is our IT companies. How our top IT companies, TCS, Infosys, Wipro, all those companies are going to recreate, repurpose the roles, train people quickly. And I feel our companies are smart enough, these companies are smart enough, they always had a strong HR reskilling process. Uh, People will pick up to that, they'll figure it out. Some percentage of people will still have to figure out new roles, but it will not be as large as like the kind of volumes of layoff that we're seeing in the US.
Very nice. I mean, that was a great advice to the people who would like to definitely go and pick up things on AI, existing employees. So, before we end the podcast show, uh, one advice to small and medium level organizations who would like to get into the AI transformation, and also for the freshers.
Great. So for freshers, I would say go to meetups, talk to technical senior folks who are in industry, not very senior folks who are, say, directors or vice presidents or CEOs necessarily, but they would be people who will definitely help you connect with right managers or senior programmers, because the real trend is not known sitting in academia or any building setup where you believe that you're aware of it just looking at what's happening in the internet. And don't get stressed by all of these podcasts because this is happening, everybody is talking about it, we'll lose our jobs, this is what everybody's saying, there are no jobs already, all that would be the state of mind. My recommendation is, you are all strong enough to even be a gig worker and a freelancer. Don't get into pressure of society to judge you to be in a MNC. You can
Mhm.
make more money than what you would make in your initial jobs. Get the skill. Go to all these freelancing websites and pick up the work. Start delivering. When you have that kind of credentials, also, when you're able to solve for that, also, industry will definitely find a way to absorb you. And this is not only for coders, this is also for content writers, designers, UX designers, pretty much everyone. I mean, if you believe somebody has to take care of you, neither your colleges, neither system, government is your insurance. If you are born, you have to take care of yourself. The sooner you understand it, you will be more successful in life. And how to do that? You have to just look at your ways of success, go and meet right set of people who can give you advice, find right mentors who are not way too experienced, but like around a little more years of experience than you, maybe 3 years more experience, 5 years more experience than you, and they can guide you realistically what to look at. But more than anything else, advice will not help. It's your discipline. Act on it. That's the only thing. And for smaller companies, I would say, uh, try to work with service integrators. There are tons of service integrators in India. Service integrators are struggling with innovation,
Mhm.
not the large companies, because large companies would already have service integrators empaneled. So these are 100 employee, 500 employee service integrators. Smaller companies, I would say there are 2,500 service integrator companies in Hyderabad itself, from my knowledge.
Mhm.
Uh, so basis that, if you can even partner with 50 of them, which is a big number. But again, you sit in front of LinkedIn and you start sending messages. You go and meet right set of people where they are, figure out where they are, and get those partnerships and work with them and give your innovation saying that we'll share revenue. They will get you the business because there is a demand. They'll work with the larger players, they'll get the project, create that channel partnership, and figure out a mechanism of making revenue with them. That's how you'll sustain in this change because you have technology. They have clients. You have to work together. They also understand it. Just need to do the handshake.
Very nice. I think that's a great discussion. Probably we can unfold more on these topics going further.
I mean, that will be my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sridhar.
It's my pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you.